what's up y'all, I'm Charlie. On today's episode I'm going to be showing y'all how to make my homemade chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and green beans. So let's get started with the ingredients. First things first, here I have 2 pounds of steak. This is top sirloin steak. It's about 2 of them. They're pretty big, so I'll cut them down. No worries. Alright, and along with that you're going to need some bacon, some all-purpose flour, canola oil, whole milk, better than bouillon beef base. I'm trying something a little different this time. Salted butter, large eggs, 1 pound of fresh green beans, 2 large russet potatoes, and for our seasonings, you're going to need some salt, black pepper, Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, Chef Paul Prudhomme's Poetry Magic. They do have the beef kind, but I'm going to use this one. I don't really care for the beef kind too. Some onion powder, garlic powder, and some dry thyme. And for our tools, you're going to need a meat tenderizer, some paper towels, you're going to need lots of those, and a cooling rack, because once we fry our steaks, we're going to place it on here so they can cool off. Oh, and I forgot to mention that y'all going to need 1 yellow onion. And that concludes the introduction to the ingredients. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so we're going to get started with chopping up a half of a yellow onion. I just want to chop up a small amount of this because I'm going to put this in my my green beans. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to take our green beans and we're just going to add them into the strainer. And we're just going to rinse them off with cold water. Now I'm going to just go ahead and just let this sit in here until we're ready to cook them. Normally I would take my green beans and I would cut them or whatever, but I'm going to just go ahead and leave them like this. We're just going to peel the potatoes. Now if you peel your potatoes or if you cut your potatoes and you realize that you have some points where your potato is bad, don't panic. That is normal. Sometimes you're going to run into, you're going to get potatoes that's going to have a few little bad spots in them every once in a while. Just cut that part off and just get rid of it. But for the most part, these blemishes are just on the outside. Well, yeah. Now we have our potatoes nice and peeled. Now we're going to go ahead and cut the potatoes. Now we're going to cut the potatoes into quarter bite-sized pieces. Alright, so in this medium-sized bowl I have about 5 cups of cold water estimated. And to that we're going to add a teaspoon, about 2 teaspoons of vinegar in there. Just going to give this a quick stir. Now we're going to add our potatoes into this vinegar and water solution. Alright. And not only will it help clean the potatoes, but it also will prevent them from turning brown, okay? Now we're going to let this sit in here for about 5 to 10 minutes. Don't let it sit in there for too long, because what's going to happen is if you let it sit for too long, when you finally boil your potatoes, they won't get soft. There's something dealing with the acid that's going to prevent that from happening, so you don't want to let them sit for too long. Just let them sit for about 5 to 10 minutes and that's it. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and take our steaks and we're going to add them into the strainer here. I'm going to just do it one by one. And I'm going to rinse the steaks off with cold water. Now I like to do this step to rinse off any blood or particles that might be on the steak, okay? It's good that it's kind of coming apart because we're going to, I'm going to cut them. Alright, now I'm going to just take the steak and I'm going to just cut it. Just remove all this. Now I'm going to go ahead and take some paper towels and I'm just going to pat the steak dry. Just want to make sure that the steak is dry. All right, here we have our piece of steak cut and dried and ready to go. And here we have our meat tenderizer. Now let's flip it over and hit the other side. Alright, we just got finished from tenderizing our steaks. Now, as one last final measure, we're going to take some napkins again. And we're just going to pat these steaks dry. You just want to make sure that all the moisture has been removed. Just want to pat them dry like that. Alright, next up, let's go ahead and add some seasoning. Now, you could adjust the seasoning to however way you want to. Okay, just season the taste. We're going to lightly sprinkle some Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning. Tony Chachere's is a great substitute for salt. And we're going to lightly sprinkle some Chef Paul Prudhomme's Poetry Magic. I don't know why I'm craving to add some onion powder. I really do. Alright, I'm going to add a little bit of onion powder too. Just add a little sprinkle. A little drop. And I'm going to take my little fingers and I'm going to just press the seasonings into the steak so that we can marinate. Alright y'all, here we have our steak tenderized, seasoned, and ready to go. So if you want to fry your steak today, you would just cover it, set it on the side, and prepare your other items. But for me, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna place this into my refrigerator and I'm just gonna let it marinate overnight. All right, just let my potatoes soak. Now I'm gonna add them into this strainer. I'm gonna just rinse them off a little bit, just to make sure that that vinegar is off the potatoes, and from there they're ready to be cooked. Alright y'all, let's get started with our water for our potatoes. So in this medium-sized pot, we've added 1 1/2 quarts of water, and to that we're going to sprinkle about 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. Now you can always adjust the salt. If you want to add less, you can. If you want to add a little bit more, that's up to you. We're just going to go ahead and give this a quick stir. And we're going to bring it to a simmer. Alright y'all, our water is at a simmer now. We're going to go ahead and add our potato cubes. I'm going to just give this a quick stir. Now you're going to let this simmer. It should take no more than 12 to 15 minutes. But times do vary depending on your stove, because everybody's stove doesn't heat the exact same way. So you want to make sure that as the potatoes are simmering, make sure you take a piece of potato and just insert a knife in there. I'll tell you whether or not if it's tender or not. So, alright, now while our potatoes are over here simmering, we're going to go ahead and get started with our bacon. Alright, in a large saucepan, we preheat our fire to medium heat. We're just going to add a few strips of bacon in here. I actually like Wright bacon. They make they have the best bacon. Wright bacon. They got that applewood bacon. Ooh. This is about I added about 7 pieces of bacon in here. Alright, and we're going to let this fry. It should take no more than 12 to 15 minutes. Remember, frying times vary depending on your stove or whatever. Now we're going to go ahead and flip the bacon over. It's been about 6 minutes, of course. Now while our bacon is over here frying, let's go ahead and check on our potatoes. Should be finished right about now. Oh yeah, they're falling apart. That's perfect. Yeah, that's good. Now we're going to add the potatoes into this mesh strainer here. Now we're going to let these cool for about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes until it's warm. Alright, now let's go ahead and check on our bacon. Yeah, that's good. That looks good. Go ahead and take our little bacon or whatever. We're just going to add it into this mesh strainer. I should have made some more bacon, yeah. Your liquid. We're just going to pour that. Just going to lift that up and we're just going to pour the liquid, the pan juices, right into here. And what we're going to do is that we're going to take those pan juices and we're just going to make a roux with that so we can make our gravy. And that's for our bacon. That's nice and crispy. We're just putting a little bit of that into our green beans anyway. So, but if you want to make a little bit more bacon to add into your green beans, you can do so. That's all up to you. Now that we have our cute potatoes nice and cooled, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a back of a large spoon and I'm going to just mash these potatoes down. I used to have a potato masher. I got to get another one. Alright, so in the medium-sized pot, we're going to add a 1/2 to 2/3 cup of whole milk. And to that, we're going to add a 1/2 stick, that's 4 tablespoons of salted butter. Now, at this time, you're going to add about 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Now, always remember to add salt to taste. If you feel as though that you want to add more salt, you can do so. But I'm adding 1/8 teaspoon of salt in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this come to a simmer. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and add our mashed potatoes. Now we're going to go ahead and give this a quick stir. And just stir this until it's creamy and smooth. Now if you want to add more milk, you can do so if you want more thinner mashed potatoes. If you taste your potatoes and it tastes like it might need a little bit more salt in there, you can add more salt. You can also add a little bit more butter, okay? But other than that, we're done. Look at that. Creamy mashed potatoes. Yes, 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 yes. Alright, let's get started with our green beans. In a large saucepan, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of salted butter. And remember that pork, remember those juices that I told you to reserve, those pan juices that I told you to reserve from your bacon? You're going to add about 1 tablespoon of that in there. Give it a nice flavor. Just going to spread that around. And I'm going to let that melt. Now we're going to add about 1/3 cup of our chopped yellow onions. Give that a quick stir. We're just going to let this saute for about 6 minutes, stirring occasionally. All right, now you're going to add your bacon pieces. Two cups of water. Now you want to season the taste at this time. Go add a little sprinkle of salt, about 1/8 teaspoon of salt, about a 1/2 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, and about a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. Just a little bit. I'm just gonna give this a quick stir. We're going to let this come back to a simmer. Now we're going to go ahead and add our green beans. So just put that in the water. Now I'm going to go ahead and cover this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and let this cook down until most of the liquid has been evaporated. And I'm going to give you the cooking time shortly. Alright, y'all. I let the green beans cook for about 20 minutes and they are done. And as you can see, most of that water has been completely evaporated. It's okay to have a little bit of water. That's the bacon has turned that into a nice stock, so that's really nice. Some quick tips about the green beans. Now when you first cook them and you taste it, the flavor might not be as strong, but over time the flavors will settle and increase. That's why it's always good to make your green beans the day before, and they'll taste better the very next day. Alright y'all, here I have 2 cups of whole milk into a small bowl, and the milk is hot, okay? So into that we're going to add 1 teaspoon of the Better Than Bouillon beef base. Let me just drop that on in there. And now what I'm doing, I'm just going to go ahead and stir until the beef base dissolves into the milk, okay? Just playing around, doing a little experimenting. Alright, let's go ahead and make our creamy gravy mixture. So in this large saucepan, we're going to add 2 tablespoons. Remember that bacon fat that I told you to reserve? You're going to add 2 tablespoons of that in there. Just going to spread that around. And we're going to let this get hot for about 1 to 2 minutes. Now we're going to go ahead and add our 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. I'm going to take my wooden spatula. I'm just going to give this a quick stir. And we're going to stir this continuously for about 30 seconds. It's looking good. So now we're going to go ahead and pour our milk mixture in here. Now let's go ahead and add some seasoning. We're going to sprinkle 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/8 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. Now remember to always season to taste, okay? I'm going to take my spoon and I'm just going to give this a quick stir. Now I'm going to go ahead and let this simmer, and then I'm going to let you know the cooking time once I get done. Alright y'all, let my mixture cook for about 1 minute, and our cream mixture is done. Look at that. Now to give y'all some quick tips, this will thicken as it cools. Mission complete. Alright y'all, I let my steak marinate in my refrigerator overnight. Now at this time, you want to make sure that you cover this, but you want to let it sit out for about an hour, so that way the steak could come to room temperature, okay? So that way when you fry it, it'll be more easier. Now you want to make sure that you have your cooling rack with a pan underneath it ready, so that way after we fry our steaks, we'll place them on this once we're done, okay? Alright y'all, so in a medium-sized pot we're going to add 48 fluid ounces of canola oil. You can use vegetable oil as well. And if you have a deep fryer, preheat it to 350 degrees. And also you may need a little bit more oil if you're using the deep fryer. Now we're going to let this get hot for about 12 to 15 minutes. Alright, so in this medium-sized bowl I have 4 large eggs at room temperature. Into that we're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning and 1/4 teaspoon of Chef Paul Prudhomme's Poetry Magic. Now I'm going to take my whisk and I'm just going to stir this until combined. A little seasoning goes a long way, you know. Alright, so let's get started with our all-purpose flour batter. In this large bowl, we're going to add 3 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, about 1.5 teaspoons of black pepper, 3 teaspoons of Tony Chachere's Creole seasoning, 2 teaspoons of Chef Paul Prudhomme's Poetry Magic, 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, and 2 teaspoons of dry thyme. Now take our spoon and we're just going to give this a quick stir. Want to make sure that everything is well seasoned. You don't want any bland chicken fried steak. Alright, it's been about 12 to 15 minutes now, and as you can see, our oil is simmering. And you want to make sure that your oil is at a temperature of 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? Alright, let's get started with frying our steak. Here we have the steak. We're going to take it and we're going to add it into the egg mixture. Alright. Now that we got that nice and coated, we're going to take it and add it into the all-purpose flour batter. Go ahead and cover this. And I'm going to just shake this to coat the steak with the all-purpose flour batter. And this is how it looks when we're done. As you can see, that's nice and coated here. Now we're going to add the steak into the hot oil, and once we add it into the hot oil, you're going to let it fry for about 3 to 4 minutes. Now frying times do vary depending on the size and the thickness of your steak, okay? And don't worry about the discoloration of the oil. It might look kind of cloudy because I just got finished from actually frying a piece of steak, okay? Now into the oil it goes. Alright, now as you can see here, the steak is starting to float at the surface. That lets you know that it is done. And it's been about 4 minutes now. So we're going to go ahead and remove it out of the hot oil. Look at that. Look how beautiful and golden brown that looks. Now once we've transferred our chicken fried steak onto our cooling rack with a pan underneath it, we're going to let them cool off for about 5 to 10 minutes before serving. And here is the final presentation. Look at that. Chicken fried steak with our cream sauce with mashed potatoes and green beans. Yummy. Can't wait to have some of this. I'll wait and cut this. That's how it looks on the inside. Y'all, I'm telling you, the steak was tender, juicy, well seasoned, and then you had that little crust on the outside, and the mashed potatoes was so creamy and buttery, and the green beans had a nice bacon flavor with all the seasonings that we've added. I mean, it was really, really good. Now, if you like my channel, you can hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button if you want to be notified of my videos. I have an official website for all of my recipes, including this one. Go to www.charliethecookandrews.com. I'm also on Facebook and on Instagram under the name Charlie the Cook Andrews. So, until next time, take care, and I hope y'all have a good one. Peace.